Sorry, I'm laughing because Andrew pressed the button for the wrong Zoom. So we've been sat in this morning Zoom for 10 minutes wondering where everybody was. Hi. Oh, I tell you, the closer it gets to Christmas, the more chaotic we get. So just be ready for that because by the time I finish work, it'll be absolute chaos. Anyway, welcome to the class by the Sea, which is a fabulous collection. And I hope that you've had as much pleasure out of crafting with it as we have, because it just takes you back to those really exciting days when you were a kid and your mum and dad said, come on, we'll go to the seaside for the day. And off you went. And it was just magical. And then the ice cream van would come across and you go running up to get a Mr. Whippy ice cream with a flake and raspberry sauce in. It just, yeah, amazing. So what I wanted to do in this class is just do a couple of little techniquey things with you, as well as a couple of projects. And we're going to do a picture frame and we will send it out to somebody after the class. So I'll choose a number, a random number, and then whoever that number is will win it. So when we were doing the show, we were talking about these new style of dies that we've started to do, which are like cut-ins. So they're little curved, wibbly wobbly lines, I call them. Little curvy lines that cut into your cardstock, and then you can tuck things into them. And we did it this morning with the Wandering Wilderness Zoom, and it worked out really, really well. It was lovely because it looks like, so for example, if you've got the, I don't know, the lighthouse, for example, rather than just sitting it on top of a page, you can tuck it into it. It creates almost like a little pocket, which is super cool. So I thought what I'd do, first of all, is show you how we can use those to kind of decoupage layers up as well. So we're going to do a little bit of die cutting. And then I've got a frame to do. And then if we've got time, I've got a bottle to decorate as well. So what I've done, I chose one of the backgrounds. I think this is number 13 on the USB that you got with your dies. And I've printed it out 4 times. So I'm going to have one as the background. And I've printed it at 50% of the original size so that you get a smaller, an A5 rather than an A4. And then I asked it to do 2 per sheet. So out of 2 sheets of card, I've got four pictures. So I'm going to keep one as the background and we're going to work on the other 3. So because this is a sandy scene, when you walk through the sand dunes, they kind of undulate, don't they? And you're never sure where your foot's going to go next. It's a bit like being on one of those crazy rocky things at the seaside. But I thought this was quite a good idea to use some of these and put them in a position so it looks like it's all undulating as you're building it up. So I'm going to start with this one, which has got, excuse me, the little fence there. And then it's got a little bit of texture over here. So I'm going to position this one and I'm just going to have the little fence so that it comes onto this almost like beigey colour at the top. And we're going to tape it in place so that it doesn't move as it goes through our die cutting machine. So we're going to do that one first of all. Let's send that one through, and while that's going through we can do the next one. So magnetic sheet on, then your 5mm plate. Good news for those of you that have been waiting for the baby blue to come back in stock. It's on the one-day special show with our Dawn Wheeler tonight at 6 o'clock, which is lovely. So Dawn's doing some shows for us because Stephanie's away. I'm up to my eyes in it, getting ready for this weekend's Weekender and next weekend's Weekender and Quirky Bird in between. So Dawn's picking up some shows, which is great. So this is our first, or this is going to be the layer that goes on top of this one here. Okay, so we're going to keep one complete, and then this one is going to go on there like that. Now you can add foam tape onto the back of this. So once I've cut them all, we'll put foam tape on. You can see what it looks like building that perspective like this. But you could just cut it into your paper as well, and we'll do that when we do the picture frame. So that's my first one. Now this bit, you could turn around that way, and if you did, let's have a think. Let's just snip this bit away. You could have that as the beginning of a beach scene. So if you turned it upside down, this would be the sea, and then you'd start to build the beach. So let's see what we get when we do the next one. Right, so for the next one, I'm going to use 2, I think. So I'm going to use this one that's got like the grassy pieces on, And I'm going to position that there because this is where the grasses are still growing through the sand. That always amazed me as a child. How does grass grow through the sand? That never made sense in my brain, but obviously it does. So I'm going to pop that one going in on a diagonal like that. Now, because I'm running 2 through at the same time, I'm going to make sure that I put plenty of tape on this and press it down around those dies. If you feel more comfortable doing it in 2 different passes, absolutely do that. I don't want to be responsible for your dies crossing over each other and, as Jodie would say, rhubarбing them, which always makes me smile. So we'll get this one through. So we've got first layer there, then our next layer, and then we'll do another one coming towards the front, which will look really cool, I think. So our second one now, and it didn't cross over, thank goodness. But you'll see there's a little gap there where the 2 dies don't quite meet. So we just need to complete that with our scissors. So let's get the tape off this. And I have to say this tape is super good. This is Scotch removable tape. So if you can get hold of some of that, do so because it is good. Right, so now if I do this with this one, so I'll start in the same place, but we'll just use our scissors. You're now creating an opposite scene, look. How cool is that? That's going to be superb, isn't it? Because it's upside down, but you're going to build up that sea and then we can add the sky in again at the end. I'm intrigued now to see how that's going to work out. But now we've got another one here. So we've got this one, and I like the way that it comes across on a diagonal. So the next one we're going to do going in the opposite direction. So we'll have this one coming across here like this. So let's get another piece of our cardstock here. Now you could do this as a tunnel card as well, which would look really cool. So what you would do is make your concertina on the side and then drop these in so that each layer will become a level of the actual tunnel card itself. So that would look nice too. So try different things with these. I love these dies. They're the most weird looking dies, but actually they're really, really useful. And also if you're doing like a little mini album of maybe a holiday, something like that, these are great for popping in receipts and tickets and memorabilia and that kind of thing. That'll be really cool to have those. So while that's running through, we'll start to build this up so that you can see that you can get depth and dimension into there, which I think looks really nice. And even just, you know, even if you don't add foam tape onto the back of this, it's nice because you're creating those layers, but even though it's still flat, you've still got that, you can see the different layers almost of the sand. So it's a really nice way of creating something that looks dimensional, but isn't necessarily, you know, that dimensional. So yeah, it's good, and it's better for postage because we're all aware of that at the moment. Although I think Royal Mail are on strike for most of December, aren't they? So we're going to pop this on here like this. So we've now got all our layers. So we've got this one, we've got another one there, and then we've got one at the front. So I'll just pop a little bit of foam tape on the back so you can see what it looks like when it's all built up. And when I'm doing this, I'm going to think about if I want to tuck things into these. So if I want to put little creatures behind, if I want to have the lighthouse coming out of one. So I'm just thinking about not going up too far up the sides, because if I want to tuck something behind it, I don't want tape right at the top. I need to be able to get behind it. So I'm just going to put a little bit of tape up here like this, and a little bit of foam tape up here like this. And actually you could use some quite narrow foam tape, as in the depth of it. So, you know, 1/2 mil, or I think this is probably 2 mil. But, and it would look really cool. And also adding a little bit of ink to the edges would help too, just to separate those layers. So I'll just get the backing off. And I'm going to position this over here. I am actually just going to put some wet glue on this because I know what I'm like with foam tape. And if I don't, I'll put it in the wrong place and then I won't be able to get it off. And that's never good. So a little bit of wet glue. Get rid of that bit that had just skinned over at the top. So now we're going to put this down here. We're going to line that bottom edge up, and we've now got this. So now we could take something like our lighthouse. Let's see if we've got a lighthouse here cut. We should have. Yes, we have. So we've got a lighthouse that can then just pop in there like that. So it's coming behind that hill, so it's making it look more dimensional as it's going back. So then we can add some more tape onto this one. And I just wanted to show you this just as a little technique-y thing, because it occurred to me this morning and I thought, well, that'd be really cool. And then I remembered that I'd said we would do it when I was on TV, so I thought I'd better show you this bit. But then the picture's really cool too, because we're using the same dies but in a different way, and I like that. I like dies where you can do lots of different stuff with them. I don't want to buy a die just as one thing, because then they go away and they get forgotten about. And I don't think you do that with Two Red Robins, because everything coordinates together. And what I love about the story at the moment, so in January we are starting the Robins visiting the cottage garden. So the humans are back out again after being locked away. And even at the moment when I'm crafting with this, even though the robins aren't appearing in this particular collection, they're flying over the seaside and they haven't got time to stop, because they need to get to the cottage garden by January, and it's quite a long way away. But they are quite intrigued by the seagulls that keep swooping down and then going back in the air with food. But they really haven't got time to stop, but they know they'll come back one day and visit. And that's the great thing about it. When you're telling a story with your craft, you've got all these different stories that you can tell, and every time you change the story, you use the dies in a different way. And I love that. And Stephanie's almost got the book ready to go, which is super exciting. And we've had some very funny moments with that book. I don't know whether any of you heard me telling you about the story when Amanda and I were in work with Stephanie one Saturday. And Stephanie's just got a new iPad. So she works out she can dictate the book, because she's dyslexic, it's Stephanie, so she struggles with not writing stuff down, but yeah, sometimes she gets the words mixed up as well, which is very funny. So Amanda and I are sat on one side of the craft room and she's sat on the other, and she's dictating this story, and it makes me quite emotional when I hear her telling the story, because it is just so lovely, and it does remind you of what we all went through. And she sat there and she said, so the thatched cottage houses in the countryside are very sought after by the city folk. I think it's something like that. She said, and the thatched roofs on the houses are made from dried vegetarians, blah, 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 full stop. So she waited till she said full stop, and then suddenly Amanda went, I think you might want to change vegetarian to vegetation, Stephanie, because I don't think dried vegetarians would do very well on a thatched cottage roof. I was crying. I nearly fell off my chair. And then I walked back in and I said, we need to come up with a new charity now, the Royal Society for the Prevention for Cruelty to Dried Vegetarians. It was very funny. And yeah, we've had a lot of laughs about that since then. So great fun. But it's nearly ready. That's the exciting bit. Right, so now we can see, if I lift this up here, you'll be able to see we've got, if I do it this way, you've got these layers now of building up this same image. So it's using that same picture, but building up just with a little bit of foam tape, and then you can start to tuck things in. So although this wasn't like a full project, I thought it was quite cool just to show you, look, like he can be just sunbathing in the sun dunes. I do love these seals, they are funny. You could have the deck chair at the front, so he's just having a nice little snooze by the side of the deck chair that's been forgotten. And then we could have a couple of little puffins that just pop in there as well, so they're popping up here, seeing what he's doing, and they're looking for the big puffin that's at the front here, just in front. So you can see how you can build up pictures really, really simply, just by using those dies that either cut in or cut out. And I love stuff like that, because then you go and get a picture frame and you frame it, or you put it on a card front, and it's completely different to all the other stuff that's out there. And yeah, it is absolutely a joy to craft with. It's great fun. Right, so that's how you would do that. And now I want to go on to the picture frame, because this is lovely and this is what we're going to give away. Stephanie's on holiday, so I've decided to give loads of stuff away. She won't mind. I know she won't mind. But I do like it when I can get away with stuff like that. Right, so let's bring in, oh, well, no, we were doing this bit, weren't we? I want to see what this ends up looking like as well. So we've sort of got our little beach going on here. And if I turn this upside down, we can continue this. So if we go a little bit further up here and just cut it on a curve like this. It's funny, I couldn't draw a line like that, but I could do it with scissors. I am a bit of an odd bod, to be fair. So now we've started to get it the other way around. So this is the sea now, and then this is your sand dunes going up. And then if you pop another one behind there, look at that, from the same picture. So you've got the water, then the sand, and then the sky again. So just play around with your background papers like that, because that's super cool, because that's not meant to be what it's like. So see how many you can change like that, and just, you know, have a play around. Just print, even if you printed them off in black and white, it doesn't matter. Just have one coloured one and then print them off and just have a play around and see what you can come up with. But I think that's quite cool. Right, so let's go on to this picture. I do like making pictures. And I think for somebody's bathroom, this will be really rather lovely. Or maybe somebody lives by the seaside. That would be nice too. So I have to be a bit careful with this because it's got all sorts of stuff. You can see it's a little bit, look, I've cut them into this time. Right, so we got a frame from IKEA. I'm a bit in love with IKEA at the moment. It's one of those shops that I'd never been to, and as soon as I went, it was like, oh, I need to come here every week. So I'm avoiding going because I know I could spend a fortune. Right, so same dies that we've just used to cut the layers out of the card, we're going to use to cut the layers into the piece of paper. So this was an A4 sheet, and it's the same image that we've used on the previous one. And this time what I've done is I've actually cut these into the cardstock. So I've created these little openings, if you like. Now I wouldn't normally take them right to the edge or over the edge, because then you end up with this. But because it's going behind a mount, we can get away with it. And I really liked the idea of it just kind of stopping and disappearing off. It's a little fence, and it's like it just disappears after that. And then we've got another one that's cut into here, a simpler one that's cut further down, and then another one that's cut kind of more centrally over here, which I thought was quite nice. So the first thing I'm going to do is just attach this to the back of this mount. So I get it positioned where I want it to be, making sure that none of the colour is coming out on any of the sides. And then I turn it over and I tape it down in place. So I'm using this pink tape. I wouldn't use a Scotch removable for this. You need something that's a little bit tackier. Some of the creative team use this for their dies, but I prefer the removable tape, I have to say. What I find with this tape is sometimes it gets really bonded to the die itself because it's more tacky. That pressure from those rollers bonds it a little bit more. It's just a personal choice. I know David likes this, Amanda likes this. You know, all the team are like, oh yeah, we love the pink tape. And I'm like, no, I prefer the other one. But that's just me. I think when I find something that I love, unless something's a lot better, I won't switch over. So we're now going to put a little bit of this on down here as well. And you know, these picture frames are really inexpensive now. In fact, I'm going to just cut that down a little bit because I don't need that much on there. Like that there, just to seal that little edge there. And then the rest of that can go over here. So yeah, picture frames are really inexpensive. The only problem with IKEA is if you order online, it's a £30 post delivery charge, even if you only order one thing, which doesn't sit very well with me. So the range, somewhere like that, is good for stuff like this. Right, so I decided then that what I wanted to do was put one of these nets in this corner like this. Now you can have it outside there, but I actually like the idea of having it just like that in the corner. I quite liked that idea of just having some texture up there. And then I've taken the largest lighthouse. Now, this is not correct as far as perspective and size is concerned, but I actually really liked the idea of it being quite a focal point in the frame. And because it's taller than it is wide, it reflects that rectangle. So for me, that worked really, really well. And just make sure that you pop out all the little unlocked areas. And the best way to see them is to turn it over, and then you'll see where it's a full cut or where it's just a detail line. So I'm going to pop that there, and I'm going to have it coming more or less up to the top of the frame because I quite like that there. Now I don't stick anything down until I'm sure that I've got what I want. So it's kind of laying stuff out and seeing where it's going to go. Now, because I've got the net tucked in there, I thought it might be quite nice to have the net in this corner. Because it's got that nice curve, it's nice to go in this corner, and then you can build on top of it. And again, just make sure you pop out all those little landlocked areas. I think it's fabulous. That I also think it would make a really good hammock. So when we go into the cottage garden, if you see a hammock, you'll know what it is because I'll have fitted it in somewhere. So we've now got the kind of the corners and the left-hand side done. And there's kind of a design theory that if you fill 3 corners, the 4th one will just take care of itself. You don't kind of notice that there's nothing there. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It depends on, I think a lot of it depends on what you like. If you like less is more, absolutely. The lighthouse with a few shells around the bottom, maybe one of the shore birds would work perfectly. But if you're like me and I don't do less is more, I like to fill the page. I think that comes from being a scrapbooker for a long time. Then, you know, it's entirely up to you. So I'm going to start to build this corner. I am happy with my lighthouse there. So I'm actually just going to pop a little bit of glue under that. Might regret this because I might change my mind in a minute. In fact, I'm going to use Pinflair glue just in case I do, because I know what I'm like. And I'm going to go right up to the top there. So just a small amount. I'm going to tuck this in. And I don't mind that it's sticking out here because we're going to snip that off. And I'm just going to have that right out there. And then I think I'm going to take this little one here and I'm going to have that just tucked behind there like that. So we're instantly creating that distance. It's really clever, isn't it, how perspective works? Because you've got this and it's still flat, but as soon as you put something smaller in the background, it suddenly just works. I love it. It's a very, very clever concept too, Red Robins. It's been a lovely journey, and long may it continue as far as I'm concerned. I think it's fab. Right, so we've got this. So what else have we got? Well, we've got, so we did some web exclusives. When we launch a collection on Create and Craft, more often than not, we do some web exclusive dies. And I'm always a little bit sad because I don't really get to play with them because they are just for our website. So we don't get to take them on TV unless we do it as a special at some point. But these were just fabulous. So you've got the little crabs, snip and snap, which I think are just fantastic. And that was always a big thing when you went to the sea. Well, when I was little anyway, when we went to the seaside, seeing if we could go find the little crabs in the rock pools. We didn't hurt them or anything. We didn't, you know, take them home, but it was just going, yeah. And then they always fascinated me the way they run sideways. Just, yeah, maybe something that made me smile. Right, so we've got lots of bits and pieces here. And one of the web exclusives was this fabulous fence. We haven't got any left, I'm afraid. I think you bought them all, which is a good thing, but it is a lovely fence. And it just kind of just sits there. It doesn't need to continue across. Again, it's like, you know, that fence that's just behind it there has just disappeared over time. And this is one of those fences that's been battered by the wind and the sea, and the salt has just, you know, I love it. I love the idea of having this fence here. So what else do I need around here? Well, I think I need a little bit of grass just where that fence is. In fact, I'm going to use this longer piece here. And that just kind of grounds it and takes it up to that lighthouse. So it'll just tuck underneath there perfectly. So again, it's that perspective. It's building up those different layers as you go along. And I quite like that. I think that looks really nice there. And my lighthouse just sits behind it. Right, so I'm happy with that bit. I'm going to stick that bit down. And this is what I do all the time. Just have a play around. And this one you've really got to check for your little landlocked bits because there are lots of them in here. So see, have I got them all now? Yep, I think so. Right, so just a little bit of glue down here. When I'm creating something like the pictures, I won't ever have it all completely flat. I'll always just put the glue where I need the glue to be to hold it in place and let the rest of it just sit where it is because I think it looks more realistic. So I'm just going to pull that down a little bit there. And almost, you could, because of the cut lines in this, you can almost push it back slightly and it lifts. So again, it adds a little bit more dimension. It doesn't look as static, as flat, which I like. And then this green, this grass here, just going in there like that. I remember when I was little, so my grandma and granddad had a caravan at Cleveleys, and then we'd go to Blackpool or Southport for the day. And Southport absolutely terrified me because I remember and I must have been about, I don't know, 8 or 9, I guess, 7, 8, 9, and it still bothers me now. And I watched Oliver as a kid one Christmas and I loved it. But there's the bit at the end where Fagin is trying to escape the police and he grabs all the jewels from their lair and he goes over that wooden bridge and he drops them and they go into the quicksand and it all bubbles and you just see them disappearing. And Southport Beach has quicksand and it used to terrify me. I would not go on the beach at Southport and it still makes me go a bit like that now. It's weird, isn't it, what you get in your head as a child? But yeah, that's where it comes from. Watching Oliver as a kid. Right, I'm just going to snip off this bit of this lighthouse here. Oh, I used to love it when we went to the seaside. It was so much fun. Went on the trampolines and the helter-skelter and the little mini waltzer and oh, it's just lovely. Right, so we've got our little bits going on here. So what I did with this was took one of the lighthouses and just cut away the rocks. This is one of the smaller ones. Let me see if I can find one and then I can show you. It's this size here. So all I did was got my scissors and just followed along that line of the rocks there. So just wiggle your scissors like this, or wiggle the card and move your scissors. And you try and use the whole length of the blade of your scissor rather than doing this, which you don't end up with such a smooth edge. If you hold your scissors open and then as you start to close them, just wiggle the cardstock, you get a really nice finish to it. So I've now got these, we might as well use both because we've got them, these 2 pieces of rock here. So I'm going to tuck these into those little slits that I've made here. And I'm going to push this over like this. So I'm creating that rocky edge here. And I'm going to put that one in there like that. Now, if I just stuck that on top, it would look kind of odd. But because we've used those slits, and I do love these dies, I think they're very clever. I hope we're going to do more of these because I love them. And I think you will too when you start to use them. I'm just going to tuck these underneath here like that. So we've now got these rocks appearing in the sea, in the sand as well, which gives us a place to kind of put other things on top to build our projects. And just looking at this picture now, it looks like this is all sandy with the grass coming through. And then as you get here, it turns to like pebbles. It almost changes in the background here. And because you've got that cut there, it really emphasizes that difference. So it's like you're walking through the sand dunes, the lighthouse is here, and then you get into the sea, and then there's another lighthouse in the distance. Very cool. Right, so let's put those rocks in place. So I'm just going to pop a little bit of glue onto the top of the cut so that when I put it into the slot, it glues to the underneath of the slot, so I can still put things behind this as well if I want to. So just think about where you're putting your glue. But that looks so much more effective than just cutting a straight line with a craft knife, because it looks like it's meant to be there. It looks like it fits. Very cool. And then I'm going to put a little bit down the side here and a little bit on the top of this as well. So we're going to push that one in underneath that little mount there, like that. And I always think it's worth buying a frame that has a mount in it or getting a mount to go with it, because it finishes it off. I think that comes from my dad being quite arty. He always used to, well, my mum was a picture framer when they were first married, so that's probably comes from there as well. Now we've got this fabulous Shipwreck chip, and I love the colours in this. I love the fact that you've got this real pop of teal, which is kind of almost greyed down here. It's the same colours that are in the top of the lighthouse, but it's almost, this is greyed down, so it's toned back. Whereas this one, it's still quite vibrant, and I love that. We're going to have it upside down. You could have it that way if you wanted, like it's just shipwrecked, like it's quite like that actually. Oh, Melanie, this is what I do all the time. I just change my mind all the time. Stick with it, because there was a reason why you chose it in the first place. Right, so I'm going to have that there, and then I'm going to have the net just coming down here, so we're starting to build up this picture now. So I'm going to put this on with some glue gel and just get a nice layer. We do sell these syringes now as well separately, so if you've lost one or you can't find one, then you know that we sell them. The tip with this, because now if you're a Highlight Club member, which is very exciting, I haven't done a class since we've had club membership, that's exciting, you will get your discount depending on where you are with your points, and then your points on top. And before I forget, we do have a code for you. It's called Master20, and it is on everything Craftmaster on the website apart from the card and paper kit. There's a card and paper kit which is on tonight's show, which is why we can't do it on a special for you, but it will be on a special price on the show tonight with our lovely Dawn, so that'll be good. So I'm going to pop this net in here now. I got home yesterday. I haven't been home for weeks, and I went home for one day because my car needed to go into the garage, and it looks like Christmas in our house because all the presents had arrived. It was like Amazon's warehouse. It said, how many people are you buying for? It's like, shut up, it's fine. I do like Christmas though, and especially this year because I've got some time off. It'll be lovely. So I'm going to pop this over here like that. So it's just blown in off the shore and it's just landed in the corner. And then we want a deck chair that's just going to be on there, because you can't have the seaside without a chair. It always used to make me laugh watching people put deck chairs up because they were so careful, weren't they? And then you sat down really, really, really carefully in case it didn't quite catch and you ended up wrapped up in it. Oh dear. Those and windbreakers that used to blow down the beach, so they didn't really do the job they were meant to do in the first place. And I have a fabulous photograph of my granddad at home on the beach in Cleveland with his trousers curled up at the bottom, and then a full jacket, waistcoat, shirt and tie. But that's the way it used to be, isn't it? Fabulous photograph it is as well. Right, now I've got another piece of this fence that I'm actually going to, let's see where we can put this, because I think this would be nice in here somewhere. Let's see. This is where you just start to play around. I quite like the idea of it being at the front there, actually. I think that's quite nice. And coming across onto the mount there. Do I like that? Yeah, I kind of do. Right, so I'm going to stick that one down there. Yeah, these photographs of them at the seaside in their Sunday best. Mind you, the house that we live in now is the house I grew up in. And we had a gentleman live next door to us. There was him and his dad, Mr. Goldsborough, he was called. So there was old Mr. Goldsborough and young Mr. Goldsborough, because they were both called Jack. And he was a policeman for many, many, many years. And he always used to garden in a three-piece suit, which used to make me laugh. Picking the gooseberries in a full suit. You know, takes you back a bit. Right, now we do have this other little ship that's in the distance that could just be by the shore there. Can I tuck that behind there far enough for it to look right? I think that might be a bit big. Let's see if we've got another one. So I need to find the little pack with the boats in, which I bet it's the one that I haven't brought in. Okay, never mind. I'm not going to worry about it because I was. Oh, hang on, bear with. Here we go. Right. Let's find a little one because I think that makes the lighthouse look a little bit out of perspective. Whereas if I've got this little one there, that's better. This is why I like the nesting dies, because there's always something that works. And when you get a couple of them in a collection, I like that because you know that everything's going to coordinate together. Right, so next we want some, do we want a puffin? Well, we'll decide on him in a minute because I want some shells in first. This was another one of the web exclusives. There might still be some of these left because I like the idea of having shells, because I like the idea of this going into a bathroom. I think it would look really nice on the wall. And the background could be a photograph, you know, of somewhere that you've stayed. We used to go to Tenby and Llandudno and places like that. Used to have so much fun. It's great. And the penny arcades and just all those flashing lights and, oh yeah, just very atmospheric. Takes me right back. I was really pleased when I got to do this show. So I love this. So let's put these shells in. So I'm just building this across here now. So I'm creating a line across the bottom. Actually, that can stay in there because it's already grabbed into that Pinflair glue gel there. I'll put this one on here. So a little bit deeper at the top and a little bit thinner at the bottom, so that when I position it here, it's still grabbed on the frame, but it's also giving it some support there. And then these two other little ones here. Anglesey, another place we used to go. Didn't go abroad until I was 13, and even that was kind of pretty new. As now you just jump on a plane and go, don't you? It wasn't like that when I was little. First place I went to was Crete. And I was like, oh, this is too hot. Don't do warm at the best of times. But yeah, how the world has changed since then, hey? Right, so we've got lots of these little pieces of grass in here as well, just coming in. So I'm going to pop one just in front of the deck chair here, so it's grounded a little bit more. In fact, if I've got some more, I'm going to put some more at the front here because we've got all sorts going on here. That's better. I like that now. I've got that grass at the front. It's funny, isn't it? When you're building a picture, it's not until you put the last bit in. It's like a cake never looks as good until it's decorated. So I'm just adding these little grasses on, although I have to say in our house they don't last long enough to get decorated. I was telling the ladies on the class this morning, it was quite funny yesterday, it was my husband's 60th birthday, and he decided he didn't want to celebrate his birthday because he was 60 and he didn't want to think about being 60. I was like, oh, for goodness sake, it's better than the alternative. Anyway, so I ended up going home because I needed to get my car sorted because he said, no, I don't want you to come home, I'm not celebrating. And then, of course, I gave him his present and he was delighted. And then the grandchildren turned up with more presents. So he was happy about that. And then Alice bought him a cake. She got him a salted caramel cake. And she said to me, she's only 7, this really made me laugh. She said, Nana, I said, what, sweetheart? She said, I've got Grandad a cake. I said, have you? She said, yeah. She said, but he's in the kitchen. We need to lure him into the lounge so that we can make a plan in the kitchen. I was like, right, fine. I was like, where on earth have you got lure from? She went, oh, YouTube probably. I was like, yeah, probably. It is funny. I didn't expect it to come out of that word at all. It just made me cry laughing. It's like, what to lure you into the lounge, Mick? Right, so we've got a little crab down there now, which I love. I think these just add, and they add a little bit of brightness to the whole collection as well, which I think is nice. That little pop of colour is just fabulous. And I'd love to see what you make with yours and what your memories are of the summers. Because the summer holidays, when you broke up as a kid, and it was always around my birthday, around the middle of July. And when you broke up, those 6 weeks seemed to last forever. Because we just went out and played all day and it was just fabulous. And now they seem to go by in a heartbeat. Right, so now we've got our little seal here, and he could be sat on top of the boat. I quite like him on top of the boat there. I think it's quite fun. This is where you can start to add real personality into your projects, because you position them where you think they work best, and I love that about it. Right, so now we've got, let's see what else we've got. We've got some bits of driftwood and seaweed here, so I'm going to tip these out, and then we can have a look and see what we've got. Bits of driftwood. So this is quite nice to bring just behind the shells here like that. That works quite nicely, just tucked in there. And we could have another little bit of that maybe. Got any smaller bits? Let's see if I can cut into this and make it a little bit smaller. So when you're cutting into something, you want to turn it over and see where the main lines go. So you've got lots of little detail lines in here, but then you've also got one that's quite long and shapely. And if you then use that and join that up to some of the others, you will get another piece that works as a shape because the lines have been put in. So when we get the artwork back from Max, who digitally colours it for us, and then what happens is the team upstairs, the graphic designers upstairs, put that piece of artwork on their computer, and they put all the detail lines in. And that's when it all really, really comes to life. I'm going to put that bit of driftwood just down there at the bottom there. So all the detail lines are there for a reason. They separate the areas of the image itself. So, for example, on the puffin here, this will have come back as a whole thing, and then the detail lines that put the almost like the depth and the dimension into him go in after the artwork comes back. It's a really fascinating process actually to see it all come together from a rough sketch or, you know, an inspiration to suddenly, a photograph that Stephanie's taken when she's out and about, or a memory from her childhood, or something that she's seen and thought, oh, that would be good, or yeah, it's all sorts of different things. But it is really quite fascinating to see it all come together. And then we've got the little bit of seaweed, and the way that she does it, and I will never be able to do this, but she thinks in pictures so she can see it. So as she's building her collection, she's making the cards in her head, so she knows exactly what we need. We need that little bit of driftwood that'll just tuck in, that we can just curve over a finger and add some glue gel behind and make it a little bit more dimensional. And I love that. I love the fact that that's how she designs. That's why it's so good, because she knows before it even comes back from manufacturing that it's going to work, because she's seen the cards in her head. I don't have that at all. I have to sit there and cut a load of stuff out, because otherwise I can't see I don't know where I'm starting from. But I do love it. Right, so now we've got our little seabirds. And these were extras too. These were little web exclusives as well. And you don't need these. We'll have brought you loads of birds before. I mean, if they're available, absolutely treat yourself if you want to, but it's not a necessity. And I think that's the nice thing about Two Red Robins. You can dip in and out of it as it pleases you, you know. So if you're busy Christmas shopping, or you've got birthdays one month and you're like, no, I can't afford that this month, it doesn't matter, because it still all works together. I am going to put this little, just going to get rid of that bit of glue because that will really annoy me. In fact, I need to put something on top of there. I might put this little, there we go, a little bird. There's always a reason, and it's normally covering something up. Let's get this little bird. I brought my tweezers in somewhere here. Let's have him stood on top of that post there, or is he going to be stood there? There he is. And that'll cover that bit of random glue up, because this is going out to one of you. And I don't want you to think I don't care enough to get rid of the glue. So pop that on there. So he's going to just stand on that little post there and just cover up that bit of glue. There we go. It's like he's having a really nice time on there. I'd like to know what they're all looking at over here. That's the next bit of the story, isn't it? What's over here? That's the fun bit. So this weekend, I've got Two Red Robins in a different format. So we have taken artwork from our Two Red Robins library, and we've created topper sheets. I don't know whether any of you remember from the I keep calling it the old Create and Craft. It's the same Create and Craft, but different owner. After the merger, before the merger, we had a brand called Clever Cutting Forms, so a cutting form is a big piece of wood that has metal blades pushed into it and then foam over the top, and that's what die cuts your sheets. So when you buy die cut toppers, that's what's made them. So we've done a set of dies that work with, there's 32 different topper sheets, there's 32 background papers, which are beautiful, I have to say, they'd be lovely as rice papers, and then there is 64 complementary cardstock colours that you can print off. So I'm just adding in here some little pebbles just at the front, because we even did little pebbles, which I think are fabulous. So that's on a USB with the dies. We then have some beautiful stamps, I have to say, they are lovely. And they've got dies to work with them as well, so you don't have to fussy cut them out. And then we've got something quite, well, I've never done the fabric side of things because I don't sew, but we've got a really clever concept where we've printed some book covers with some of the scenes. So we're selling the book covers with construction board to be able to make your own little notebooks or diaries, which is really nice. So that launches on Friday at 8 o'clock, just on the one Friday that Strictly's on as well. So I'm up against Strictly, which I'm sure they'll win, but we'll have a good time anyway. And I've got that all weekend, which is nice. And then you can buy all of it together as well if you want to. But it's just, if you make and sell, or if you like quick cards, or you just want a little extra topper to maybe work with some of your three-dimensional projects, it's a great little kit to have as well. So that's me this weekend. I'm going to pop that little bird on there. So he's on the little arm of the chair. And this can be as much or as little as you want it to be. But I like the idea of all these little creatures just living in this space that's away from the main beach, just set back, and all this life is going on that we don't even know about. Now I'm going to put the little puffin there, I think, because I think he deserves to be on here. So on there, and then I have a larger puffin somewhere. Now then, I don't know what it is about me, but I look with my fingertips like this. I do it all the time, and my granddaughter does the same thing. It keeps saying to me, why are you doing that? You haven't got eyes in your fingertips. I'm like, I know, but it's just a thing. I can't help it. Quirky bird. Guess where that name came from. Right, so now we can have him stood at the front there. I like him at the front, like so. And that can go there. So he's having a proper conversation going on with this little chap here, isn't he? I'm going to move him over a bit because I need to get him into that frame again. So they're having a conflab. And then, no, he's too big. I don't like that there. That's ridiculous. Right, what else do I need? I don't know if I need anything else, actually. I think I'm quite happy with that. I might just need something here. What can that be? Let's bring in another shell, maybe. That might be too big. I don't like that. That's too big. So I want something that's just going to tuck behind there. That's better. There we go. And we're just building up these little areas here now with these lovely little shells in there. And I think that's called a conch shell. Is that the one that you can hear the sea in? I think I still have one of those somewhere. It was my grandma's at home. Used to say that if you put it to your ear, you could hear the sea. There we go. Right, happy with that now. Right, so let's put this into the frame, then we can see what it looks like as the finished project. So I've tried to make sure that I haven't gone over the edges anywhere. Just found a little bit of grass that I'm just going to put down there, which will just tie it all together. Like that. So, just there. The pebbles are just behind it like that. So you've got all those layers going backwards. And then let's put it into the frame so you can see what one of you is going to win. Right, Andrew, give me a number between what and what, please? Number between 1 and 20. Ooh. 1 and 20. Let's think about that. Number 8. Emma, I can see you. I can see Emma's name. I just can't see your face. Emma, you've won this frame, darling. Please can you email me your full name and address to mel@highlightcrafts.com, and we will get this sent out in the post to you as soon as we can. Right, so let's turn this over now and see what we've got. Look at that. Isn't that nice with the frame around it? And that could go into your bathroom or wherever you wanted to put it. Maybe you've got a caravan at the seaside. It would be lovely for that. But if you make and sell as well, you know, you could charge, what, £14.99, £15 for that? I think the frame was probably, I don't know, £4, £3 or £4. You've got one piece of printed paper and then the rest are all your little die cuts. But I think that's a lovely way of using a collection like this just to make home decor. That could be a card front if you wanted it to be. It could be that all this is on the corner of a scrapbook page and this is a photograph, you know, but all those memories, and sometimes we have memories of our travels out, our days at the seaside that we don't have a photograph for. So I remember, this is a very funny story actually, I remember, well, it wasn't funny at the time, but when I look back now, my mum, when my mum was alive, she came to one of my scrapbook classes one day and she decided she was going to do a scrapbook album for me, of me as a child. And she made this scrapbook page of us in Cleveleys, and it was probably end of August time, and it was really warm, and we went to this shop called the Tram Stop, because it's where all the trams stopped, and it was this big department store. And she bought me what I can only describe as Rupert the Bear trousers, and they were wool and they itched and rubbed against my legs. And by the time I got back to the caravan, I was in tears, and my legs were just red raw, and I hated those trousers from that day on. But my mum thought they were lovely. And she made this scrapbook page in my class and she wrote, "We had a lovely day out." And she told that whole story from a completely different perspective because she wasn't wearing the trousers that itched. And it was very funny. So I have that scrapbook page. So I'm actually going to take a picture of that scrapbook page, shrink it down, put it on another scrapbook page and give them my side of the story about those horrible Rupert Bear trousers that made my legs really sore. So sometimes we have stories without photographs, and I think Two Red Robins is a perfect way of making something look lovely in an album and just writing the story, because it brings the pictures into, you know, brings it to life in a different way. And I think, you know, something like this with, maybe you've just got one of those little old Polaroid photographs that's going a little bit brown and a little bit tatty, but putting it with something like this will just bring it back to life. And it's the stories that are the most important thing, because if you don't tell that story, nobody else will. So my great-great-great-grandchildren would look at that album and go, "Oh, yes, you loved that day, aren't they?" Yeah. And I'm going to tell them the other side of that story, which I think is super, super cool. So we've got code for you, which is Master20, and you can use that on anything Craftmaster apart from the bundle, which is the card and paper, which we've got on tonight. So all your Craftmaster wallets. So if you are a Highlight Club member, you'll get 20% off, then you'll get your club discount off, and then you'll get your points. What's not to love? That's very exciting. And that runs till the 4th of December at midnight for you. But I really hope you've enjoyed the class. I just want to show you one more thing really, really quickly. So David actually made this for one of his rice paper shows. And he's just taken an old glass bottle. You can see them, it's quite a chunky bottle. Probably had gin in. I bet Stephanie's brought that in, or it's had a specialist drink in. And he's painted it white, first of all, with the hybrid acrylic, and then just used the Cadence decoupage medium to put the paper on and wrap some twine round. I think that's really cool. And then you could take some of your elements, like the little houses, and wrap them around the bottle, and then maybe put the lighthouse behind there like that and start to build this up. I just think it's a really lovely thing to do. So home decor, not just card making. So have a really good play. Please share with us what you make on our Facebook pages. I am on air a lot now, so I don't know how many more classes I'm going to be doing. I know I've got my free scan and cut classes before I finish for Christmas, because I'm actually finishing on the 16th of December. So I'd like to say personally a massive thank you to each and every one of you for supporting us in 2022. It's been a very interesting year, one none of us will ever forget, I don't think, but it's all settling a little bit now. And 2023 holds some really exciting adventures for all of us. So it will be lovely maybe to meet some of you face to face in our new training school, which is super exciting. So all the best for Christmas. I have a lovely time and a very happy and healthy new year. And I will see you, if not before, in 2023. That's quite scary. Take care, stay safe, lots of love. Bye.